Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. How are you all doing? My name is Amanda Ellis, and a very warm welcome to my channel. We're going to be talking about a couple of controversial things today, and before we get going, I'm going to explain how I work for those that are completely new to my channel, because I do work intuitively in a slightly different way, maybe to some of the other people you might watch on YouTube. Everybody has their own unique style, of course. I'm not saying that I'm any better than anybody else. I just want to explain how I get information from spirit. Before that, let's just clarify that we're going to be talking in this video about some intuitive hits, for want of a better word, that I have received, linking in particularly to the plane crash in Washington a couple of days ago that claimed around 67 lives, I believe. I know there's also been another plane crash overnight in Philadelphia claiming 6 lives as well. But it's particularly the Washington crash that I received information about. I also would like, in the second half of this video, to talk a little bit about the nomination of RFK Jr, somebody who I have profiled before on this channel. I've done a couple of videos about his energy, his potential, etc. You can look back at that if interested. Indeed, the RFK Jr stuff may or may not be linked into what I'm picking up with regards to Washington. Certainly what I'm picking up with regards to Washington involves a power struggle, though. And there are, of course, many narratives out there at the moment in the mainstream news and on social media. It's hard to know exactly what is right, what is wrong. It's important that we don't rush to any conclusion quickly. We don't have all of the facts to hand. The black box recording has not yet been played. But I just have to go on what I'm being told by Spirit, and some of it may be right, some of it might not be, but I'm going to share it anyway, okay? And as a community, maybe we can try to pull the different pieces of the jigsaw together. Because just very briefly, one of the ways that I work is, I call myself jokingly really, but not really, a bit of a spiritual detective. Spiritual investigator is how Archangel Metatron has often referred to the type of work that we do together. And it is very much like a detective on Earth, or an investigator on Earth, which is trying to sift through the pieces of information. But from an intuitive perspective, it's about trying to sift through the pieces of energetic information and debris. And more than anything, one of the ways that Spirit talks to me is via symbolism. So I'm given a lot of symbolism, which is part of the wider jigsaw that helps me to get a steer on what may or may not be happening. Okay, so I'm just going to put this out there and either take it if it resonates. If it doesn't resonate, just leave it. It's not a big issue, and it's certainly not something we need to be starting to argue over. Okay, obviously people have lost their lives. Rest in peace to all of those who have passed over, everybody that is grieving, and indeed the whole shock aspect of events such as this, which can reverberate and ripple throughout a country or wider world. So let's start with what I got pretty soon after the crash in Washington. I'm looking down here because I've made some notes, because to be honest, I've been sitting on this for 24, 48 hours, not really knowing what to do with it, whether I even wanted to say anything. I did pull some cards, firstly, off camera on the evening that it happened. I think it happened obviously it happened when I woke up in the morning. It had already happened, but that evening I pulled cards. And I was getting an energy of an old power that has been forced to move away. You could say that is the ex-leadership. I'm not naming names here because I think it's actually above individual names, what we're dealing with here. It's more a collective energy or a collective group that are extremely angry and disjointed is the word I'm hearing as well. So lots of infighting, but it's as though they're having to withdraw from a battlefield and not wanting to. So there are like parting shots that are being carried out as they are forced to leave a battlefield. So I saw a leadership system vacating the space for a new one to come in, and it was more to do with the resistance of that old paradigm falling away. When I pulled cards with regards to the actual plane incident itself, and I'm going to do new cards today live here on camera, but there was a lot of, I think we had the Eight of Wands, which, if you know your tarot, just shows 8 wands flying in the sky, as it were, directly, fast. That could, of course, been the passage of the plane itself. If you've seen the actual footage of the Black Hawk helicopter, it's making a direct line for the aeroplane, which it then obviously smashes into, and they both fall into the river. But fast-moving, directed energy, whether it be that was just the Black Hawk helicopter itself, or whether this was also other energies at play, I'm not sure, remains to be seen. I was also picking up, and this is something I'd like to explore again today with you, I did a video before on the drones that have been sighted over parts of America a few months ago. And do you remember me saying that I felt that it would all go quiet, the sightings would all go quiet, but then it would start to ramp up again? I believe I'm right in saying it did go quiet again, or certainly lessen. Certainly hasn't been as much chatter in the media about sightings. But I feel as though we're going to start to see more of this drone activity, or let's just call it lights in the sky, that again may or may not be linked to this also. Just saying, question mark at this point. The other thing that I felt straight away intuitively was that this crash happened within hours of the testimony of RFK Jr. and his hearing. Now, if you follow me on social media, you'll know that I did put up a video about RFK Jr. and the barrage and onslaught of critical voices that were coming his way. It was a very brutal, ugly hearing. And so I talked about that. But how I feel this is linked into the planes, or I'm just putting it out there as a piece of energetic information for you to ponder. Let me just concentrate here and try and remember the train of events and my thoughts. So the day of RFK Jr.'s hearing, the number that are against his hiring to become a very prominent man with power linked into changing fundamental systems within the USA, linked in particularly to Big Pharma, but also food. And if you actually look at the list of multinational corporations and companies, names that we all know in all countries around the world, and the effects that it could have on their stocks and shares and profits, he's up against a huge army in that regard. So we have the hearing. I then was taken to, obviously, the crash in Washington involved a helicopter. Again, if you followed me for a while, you will know that I have done 2 channelings with JFK Jr. JFK Jr, not RFK Jr, JFK Jr, who obviously died in a helicopter crash. Now, yes, I believe he's dead. I know some people don't believe that, but I believe he's dead. I channeled him. And the impression I got from those channelings was that, I know not everybody agrees with me, some people feel he was taken out. But what I was getting when I channeled him was that it was an accident, that, human error caused his death and Caroline's death and the other people that were on board that craft. What I was feeling, and again, this is just one piece of a jigsaw, remember, it's not the whole answer, was that on the day of the RFK Jr hearing, and the stakes were very high and heightened, there is a helicopter crash that sends out it's almost like a post-traumatic stress disorder signal to particularly Robert, a warning shot potentially in terms of his safety. So I'm not saying that we can agree to disagree on it, whether you believe JFK Jr.'s plane was shot down or whether it was human error on his part. The point I'm trying to make is that there is a PTSD memory associated with that traumatic incident within the family clan, which is the Kennedys. Robert was the Kennedy in the spotlight on that particular day. It felt like there was a bit of a message there. In addition to this, of course, Donald Trump has said that he wishes to reveal the hidden files linked into the assassination of JFK, another Kennedy, of course. Now, this is where it gets a bit murky, well, even murkier. I'm going to quote here directly from a mainstream newspaper in the UK. It's one of the big tabloids in the UK. A lot of the time what they print is drivel or propaganda. But I've noticed over the years that also what they're doing is they're dripping in some truth bombs. Almost feels as though to sort of see who's awake. What can we get away with? I personally believe that media platforms can be very dualistic, because within the media platform or the newspaper are those who are working for the light and those who are working for the darkness. So it almost feels as though there are times when those who are working for the light, even in a newspaper or a news platform that is primarily dark, somehow manage to pierce through that veil and get an article out. This is one such one. I'm just going to read to you briefly what it is about. So the headline is, and this was on the 24th of January of this year that this article was in the paper. It says, chilling Pentagon document reveals the war-provoking reason the deep state has always feared the release of JFK assassination files. It says a 12-page report signed by the Joint Chiefs of Staff in 1962 details a secret plan to commit heinous acts against American citizens to justify the war with Cuba in the 1960s. Codenamed Operation Northwoods, this top-secret plot proposed enacting terrorism on US cities in what is known as FF operation. I can't say the 2 words there or my video will get flagged. Before blaming Cuba in order to fool the Americans into supporting war efforts to oust communist Fidel Castro. This document states we could develop a communist Cuban terror campaign in the Miami area, in other Florida cities, and even in Washington. US officials even proposed killing their own soldiers, writing, quote, "We could blow up a US ship in Guantanamo Bay and blame Cuba." JFK rejected Operation Northwards when it came across his desk and was shot. So this is an unclassified document written 13th of March 1962 that I'm reading from. Now, of course, not everything has been released yet, and that might just be one aspect of it. But it's not beyond the realms of possibility to think that if that was fact and there was this plan to use American citizens as collateral to justify a wider war, that they won't do so again, and indeed probably already have. The elephant in the room is, of course, 9/11 and what you believe about that whole thing. I only mention collateral damage, which I know is a horrible term because it's about human life, but we're dealing with people who don't value human life and who see human life as collateral damage for a wider cause, which isn't necessarily positive, indeed is about the war machine. The collateral damage here would be the innocent people who were on the aeroplane. So the question and the energy that really needs to be examined is with regards to the Black Hawk helicopter in terms of, have we been told the truth of exactly who was on board that plane, and why it flew directly into the plane, because it clearly did, makes a complete beeline for it. Now, many people are saying it's just simply human error. Not enough people in air traffic control tower, etc. And human error maybe of the pilot in the helicopter. But, something does not add up. Over and above those aspects which may also be true in terms of cuts to funding, etc. I'm not going to get into all of that. I still feel as though I'm being shown this link with the RFK Jr. hearing and the timing of that, linked into the timing of the crash, the memory that then elicits in the Kennedy mind with regards to JFK Jr., whether his crash was an accident or not, it's still that doubt in the mind because, we weren't in that cockpit with him when he crashed, JFK Jr. So people can have theories, but nobody actually knows because we weren't actually there. Yes, I've channeled him and I believe that it was an accident, but I still feel it's just stirring this PTSD pot. The timing of the release of the JFK files itself. And then the other piece of information I got from Spirit, which I just thought was odd. And again, I'm not accusing her. But remember, let's go back to being the spiritual detective and seeing symbolism in things. I'm pretty sure the same day as the crash, if not the same day, within hours, just before, Tonya Harding, who is one of the most infamous skaters in American history, with a big fanfare, arrived on social media. She's been pretty much a social pariah for many years for reasons that I'll tell you about in a moment. And on the plane, of course, there are all the ice skaters that die. So one of the most controversial, prominent ice skaters suddenly comes back online at the same time that these other ice skaters are dying. I'm not saying Tonya Harding had anything to do with it, but again, the symbolism of it. Because I was hearing, with regards to the skating and, poor kids that died and all of them that died, but there's a phrase, isn't there, skating on thin ice. Was this, I'm feeling, some form of thwarted attack that wanted to either was about sending a message to somebody now in power, which would be Trump, or it was actually the aim of it was going to be bigger, but somehow was thwarted. It's almost like sending out a signal. You're skating on thin ice. Now, when we look at the Tonya Harding story, I'd forgotten this, but she was, she wasn't just accused, she was convicted with her husband of hiring a hitman who basically took out her opponent, another skater called Nancy Kerrigan. And basically this hitman, Shane Stant, used a 21-inch collapsible baton to strike Kerrigan's right leg just before the Olympic Games. Basically, Harding goes on and wins gold, I believe. Her competitor is taken out. The language, the first article that I read on Tonya Harding, because I knew when I saw her name pop up on X in particular, I thought that's really weird that she's suddenly here on the day that these skaters have died. So I went and researched it. And the language in the articles, going back decades when all this was happening, was they were using language such as she took out her opponent. It was like it took down her opponent. Can you see what I'm trying to get at here in terms of the wider symbolism of all of this? It feels as though it was definitely some sort of warning shot across the bow to Trump in particular, but also maybe other members of his administration, some of whom have not been confirmed yet, potentially Robert, maybe others as well, Tulsi, Cash, which is that you are not going to be allowed to make the changes you want to make. And it's almost like what I'm feeling now is if we're going down, we're going to take you down with us. So I know it's a bit dark and it's a bit heavy, but this is basically what I've been picking up. So yes, that's what I've got written down here in my notes. I'm going to now pull some cards actually and just see what we get. Okay, let's just see what we get. And I'm being drawn to use the Crow Tarot by MJ Cullinane. And let's just see what Spirit would like to add. Okay, what Spirit would like to add. Because make no mistake about it, whether you like Trump or you don't like Trump, whether you're in agreement with this new administration in USA or not, it's out to make significant changes, not just within the USA and across its immediate borders, but the whole world. So, and there's money involved, big money involved, particularly linked into the border and strengthening the border. Strengthening the border obviously weakens the position of drug cartels. It weakens the position of traffickers. This is big money we're talking about. So make no mistake, there are very large enemies in town, whether you like him, whether you don't like him. He's been voted in with a mandate by the people and should be allowed to do what they voted him in to do. Now, it doesn't mean you can't protest against that and think it's wrong if you do think it's wrong, but ultimately, democracy should be allowed to play out. So there shouldn't be an energy of the losing side wanting to take down the one that has come in. Now, when I'm saying the losing side, do I believe, and am I saying that it's Joe Biden, making these decisions? No, that's not what I'm saying. I believe there are much higher powers than the ones that we see on the world stage. It's ultimately the people that own the purse strings is really where the attention probably needs to go. But these are dirty games, okay? Dirty games. Now, again, I can't confirm whether this is genuine or not. It's just something I've seen on social media, may or may not be wrong. But if it is right, it's really quite mind-blowing. There's a piece of tape, or there's a piece of audio tape doing the rounds. I think from the tower, the command tower, the air traffic control tower, or if it's not from there, it might be actually from the cockpit itself. I'm not sure. But somebody basically is heard to say in the background something along the lines of, you've picked the wrong fight, or you're playing games with the wrong people, something like that. So who are we to really know? We are living in a reality and a matrix ultimately, and powers that were allow us to see what we are allowed to see. But the one thing about the internet is that there is a lot of investigative work that goes on. Some of it barks up the wrong tree and gets it wrong, but equally, rather than just shutting things down as being conspiracy theory because people are trying to question a narrative that doesn't actually make sense, it's almost like, do you remember what I said, I think last year, which was to do with, we're in times, and Orwell said this, which is like when you can see something, you can hear something, you can taste something with your actual senses, but you're being told the opposite of what it actually is. That's sort of where we are now. So it's like we're seeing things with our eyes which don't quite add up, even though the official narrative story is this. It's like, okay, but. So, it's not about labelling people conspiracy theorists. It's to do with allowing people to be critical thinkers, which is really what we're doing here, okay? And to get the balance, okay? We've got a card of balance on the bottom of the deck, to be balanced in our outlook. So, that crow could be looking one way and then it looks the other way. It's able to survey the whole scene. It's able to listen to what we are being told by official sources, but also what is our gut telling us? What is our heart telling us? What are we feeling is actually, the right thing here? Because the truth is, and it's not necessarily a good place to be in our world, but it is the truth, a lot of people are no longer trusting the information that is coming from official sources for very good reason. But equally, as I always say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There are truths and nuggets that still are given to us. We mustn't become cynical and distrusting of everything, but it's about being discerning. Does that crow not look as though it is able to discern and make up its own mind, basically? Okay. Right, let's pull a couple of cards. So what is there to say, particularly with regards to the plane crash in Washington, please, with regards to the Black Hawk helicopter and the plane that came down? What was the primary cause of that, please? What was the primary cause? We have the energy of nature. It's an interesting card to get. What goes with nature? In fact, before I even ask what goes with nature, what am I picking up from that card, nature? What I'm feeling with this is I'm hearing the word almost like the opposite of nature. We've got the card balance, and balance ultimately is about right and wrong, left and right, not politically, just, duality, opposites. So what is the opposite of nature? The opposite of nature is something that is unnatural, something that is unnatural. I'm also being shown here this black crow feeling as though this Black Hawk helicopter, it was operating within its nature to do so. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. It's a bit, okay, what I'm being shown is something like AI technology. This is just a metaphor, okay? So AI technology is only as good as the one that programs it. Magic, actually, is only as good as the one that is wielding it. It can be used for good, it can be used for bad. So it's almost as though this Black Hawk helicopter, I'm seeing that crow there as the Black Hawk helicopter. What was within its nature to do? Was it there to protect? Was it there to hunt? Was it there to take down? What had it been programmed to do? Now, I know the speculation that these helicopters, they've had some tests where they can fly without any pilots at all. Now, we're being told there were people on board, and indeed they've already named 2 of the pilots that are dead. Rest in peace to those poor souls. The third person has not been identified, who that third pilot is as of yet. So I'm assuming that it was manned. You know, we're not being lied to. They were proper people, physical people, who are now being mourned by people who loved them that were in that plane. But I'm just saying that I'm hearing there are also plans for stealth flights, if that's the right word. I'm hearing stealth flights. What does a stealth flight mean? I need to look that up. Whereby they're not manned. There's something to do with what is the nature of this beast? What is the nature of the beast? What is this? What is this type of helicopter tasked with doing? Again, I know there's stuff out there which is saying these, is it a PET helicopter? There's something on the radar of the air traffic control where it's referred to as PET. It's to do with something which is there on official government business, basically, or has somebody of high rank on board it. Anyway, I don't want to get too much into the details because it's going to take me away from just my intuitive flow. So let's just keep going. So we've got the card of nature, we've got the card of balance. Something was out of kilter with regards to nature as well. So I'm being shown here, you know, like bees and birds and whales, they have like a natural honing device to know how to get somewhere, basically. They know how to steer their own body to get to where they're meant to be. So there's something here whereby the environment or the energy at that time, there was something off kilter. Now, that's interesting, because I'm wondering, something that was off kilter. Look at all these orbs. I mean, you could call them orbs, you could also just call them lights, but lights in the sky. Is there something in the sky that is affecting the natural environment? Even in this card, we've got all the birds on the line. It's got all these birds on a line, waiting as birds do. I don't know, something being out of order. Okay, let's just pull 2 more cards from this deck. What was behind, please? The energy behind this crash. What was the energy behind this crash? If there's anything else you can tell us, please. We've got the card of resistance, which is exactly what I was talking about at the start of this video, that there is a resistance movement with regards to the current administration that's now in power. And look at that. I mean, that looks a bit like that helicopter that was just flying straight at the other plane. No, the other plane didn't contain Donald Trump, but it was, again, it's like, I keep hearing collateral damage. It's as though whoever's, I'm not accusing the pilots that were in the helicopter of doing this. I don't really, I'm just going to say what I'm being given to say. Okay, there is something here which is, there's a resistance movement wanting to take out the current power structure. Okay. One more card. What was the energy behind the plane crash in Washington? Mischief. We've also got isolation on the bottom of the deck. So the card of mischief, to me, reminds me very much of the 7 of Cups within a traditional tarot deck. But shall we just see what it actually says in this deck, what it means? It's card number 31. Crows and ravens have a penchant for pulling tails, dog tails, cat tails, cow tails, even other birds' tails. If it has a tail, a crow will feel compelled to pull it. It appears that some may be doing this to distract the animal, but other times it's purely just to get a rise out of the other creature. Mischief indicates annoyance. You may be the target of someone's delinquency or bad behaviour. This card may also indicate that you need to add some innocent mischief or passion in your life. Okay, well, that's not relevant to this particular situation we're asking about. It's next to the card of nature, actually, card 32, which we've also had. I'm just looking at what the book says, because the book is reminding us of the concrete cities in which we all live and the absence of connection to Mother Nature. And, you know, Washington, like all cities and places around the world where there is just this build-up of not just concrete, but technology. If you think about all of the buildings and the amount of technology that's in them, even in my house, you know, the amount of, I don't know, laptops, phones we've got, televisions, etc. Multiply that by all of the televisions and computers and phones in my whole street. If you could see the energetic interference that actually creates to Mother Nature, who wants to live more in harmony, it feels, again, it just feels as though something's off with regards to the environment in which we're living, which might also either be causing a problem to people's ability to think clearly, act clearly, or maybe it's even interfering, like it does with the birds and the whales, to navigation systems. Okay, so I think that's as much as I want to do with that particular deck. I don't want to go too far more other than what I've already said, but let's just pull. I've got two other decks here. I'm going to pull a card from the Citadel, and again I'd like to see the energy, please, at play with regards to the plane crash in Washington. And I am just focusing on the plane crash in Washington today, because that's the information that I'm being given so far by Spirit. If the other crash overnight have any more information, I'll come back online in a few days. Right, we've got the energy of the painter, productivity and creation. That card came up in a video I did recently. I was talking about the fact that it's painting, a production. It's a production that's being put on. All the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. We're being shown something. I'm not saying it's not real. It is real, but there's a performance here. There's a show being put on, a sick show, a dark show. Remember that above us is not just legions of light, but there are legions of darkness in our midst as well, who want to put on a show, who want to fight back. And really, I'd like us to get away from the whole left and right thing, because ultimately darkness resides on both sides of the political debate. That's the truth. So it's less about Democrat, Republican. It's more to do with darkness and light. Right. Okay, anything else from this deck? We've got the cartographer, a crossroads and exploration. That reminds me, I'll show you the card in a moment. It shows a world map. Cartographer, obviously linked into maps and navigation systems, as I was talking about earlier. Compass also. But, you know, there is a part of Trump where he's wanting to rewrite the map, the renaming of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which I personally think is absolutely bloody ridiculous. I saw something that Elon Musk had said about renaming the English Channel. It's just stupid. It's just petty. It's there to wind people up for the sake of winding people up. It's certainly not about building bridges, is it? It's about just trying to be the mischief maker, actually. It's that card of mischief. Doesn't really serve any purpose other than to rub people up the wrong way. So, but there's something here about, just wanting to rewrite the map. And indeed, of course, Trump's rather crass comments about trying to make Canada the 51st state. I've talked about that in a previous video. I think it will come to nothing, but ultimately, look at the card. We've got the cartographer here. So start messing with borders and start messing with identities of countries and start messing with how the world is run, and that could also link into tariffs and stuff like that, how we do business as a world. We're going to run into problems, and you're not going to be allowed to do that. Okay, right, let's go to some straight tarot, and I'm going to move on, and I've got a few things I want to say about RFK Jr, and then I think I'll close this video out. All right. What are we doing? There, we're still on the planes. Okay, we're still on the planes. So anything else to say, please, Spirit, with regards to the plane crash over Washington? I'm going to have 3 cards, please. Plane crash over Washington. That is a really nasty combination of cards to come out. The 7 of Swords, which you just saw fly out of the deck, is the card of deceit, lies, manipulation, treachery, treason, with the Magician. I never like to see the Magician beside... The Magician is a great card because, it is the one who has all the tools on the table. It's what I just said. The magic is neither good or bad. It's to do with the hands of the one who wields it. So there's something here about a magician in our midst, or powers in our midst, that are not using these tools to help. They're using these tools to bring in fear, chaos, destruction. I also heard earlier, this is an important point actually, which I should have said, is I was hearing, what was the phrase? God's sake. Hold on, it's really important, guys. Might have to turn the camera off. What was it? When you're... Hold on, I'm going to turn the camera off. I'll remember it then. I remembered it. Psychological warfare. Psychological warfare. So whatever is going on with regards to planes dropping out of the sky, drones in the air, there is a degree, let's go back to the production. This is about psychological warfare. It's about trying to make the populace, and maybe the government of the day, but particularly the populace, the people, feel frightened, okay? Feel frightened, feel uncertain, feel nervous, which is understating it, but psychological warfare is absolutely what is also going on, and always has gone on really, but we're seeing it more clearly now. Okay, I said 3 cards. Let's just see if we have anything else to go with our 7 of Swords and the Magician. We will say that the 7 of Swords has the... Can you see that? Sorry, I need to cover up my eyes and also Jesus's eyes so that you can see. That's interesting. I said, so you can see the deception. It's almost like cover up what is good. Hopefully I'm a good person. I try to be. Jesus certainly is. Cover up the good energy, and then what you're left with is manipulation. And it's like if you take out the absence of light and the absence of goodness, the psychological warfare is trying to make you think that everything is just bad, everything is dark, everything is to be feared. But ultimately, they will trip themselves up because there's a trip rope here. The magician can get a bit above themselves. And of course, for any dark magician or any dark player on the board, we have the Page of Swords here, which is the energy of the truth. Maybe that is our 3rd card. And that Page of Swords will go down fighting. With every last breath, the truth will not be allowed to die, because actually look at that. Underneath that card, we've got the Ace of Swords again. So it's almost, and then we've got the Star, which is the Aquarian age, which is beautiful. And then the 2 of Cups. and the Two of Pentacles. That's nice. But yeah, so we've got truth arising, truth seekers, people trying to find the truth. Some people being taken out for those truths. But the truth will rise again. Which leads us nicely on to RFK Jr. Now, he's one of those figures that every time I mention him, I get people storming off my channel. If you're going to, just do it, okay? We don't need to have a big production and fanfare of exit. You're welcome to leave. If you don't like what I say, that's absolutely fine. But I came here to speak my truth, okay? And I'm not going to be silent with regards to what I think. And what I feel more than anything else, because what I feel and what I've said in previous videos with regards to RFK Jr. is, of course, he's a man with a history, to put it bluntly. He's done things in his life which aren't great. Yes, he's a reformed drug addict. He's been a womanizer, might still be, I don't know. But over and above all of the things that people say about him, there are some aspects where we ideally all should be able to unify underneath the umbrella. One of them is absolutely improving the nation's diet, regulating the food industry, looking at big pharma, etc. And I'm not going to go on much about him in this video. I've said a lot on Instagram and Facebook already this week, but I will pull some cards for him. But one thing I would like to get people thinking about is this. Yes, I did see Caroline Kennedy's takedown of him on the eve of his hearing and testimony, which was absolutely like, you know, stabbing somebody with a knife in the back. We'll never want to be in that family, I have to say. And actually interesting with the Kennedys absolutely are a family who've got warriors of light within it and warriors of darkness. And I'm not saying Caroline is a warrior of darkness. I'm just saying it's very clear to me. It's very split. And it's interesting actually with regards to families, because so often the black sheep of the family, in this case it would be RFK Jr, because lots of them don't like him within his own family, is actually the one who is meant to be delivering the truth. And, you know, that truth and aspects that need to come up for the higher good, over and above anything else that's happening at personal level in his life, in the past, present or future, is more important than anything else. But yeah, I wanted to say something about what Caroline said. One of the things she mentioned was that he's he keeps birds of prey, doesn't he? So hawks, and the fact that, you know, he would grind up mice or something in a grinder to feed his hawks with. Now, whether or not this is true, I've no idea, but I would like to say something to the people that will not want to look at the good that he does in our world, or the bits that would help every single human being in USA to be healthier with regards to diet, for example, and taking on the food industry and some aspects of big pharma. But it's this. I just want you to think about this. So the people that are coming to my page just saying, have you heard what Caroline said? How can you possibly support him? I'm assuming you don't eat meat. Is that right? I'm assuming that you don't eat chicken or beef, or if you do, you've never thought about how they might be killed to be put onto your plate to eat. And I'm saying that as a meat eater, okay? I'm not judging meat eaters. I'm just calling out the hypocrisy of people that on one hand will be absolutely up in arms, horrified that he's done something like what Caroline is talking about, but on the other hand, quite happily will sit down and have a Sunday roast. Hypocrite. In the same way that you might be putting makeup on your face that has been tested on animals when they were alive, okay? Hawks, I've researched this, hawks actually eat and enjoy eating rabbits, squirrels, mice, chipmunks, for example, okay? So nature by nature, interesting, that card of nature can be brutal. You know, nature, if you look at animals in the wild, if you look at an animal in the wild that's hunting its prey, there's no niceties about it. It will eat it because it wants to eat it. And because maybe it's lower down the food chain than the tiger or the lion or, whatever else is devouring the animal that it's enjoying. So, I'm really just calling out the hypocrisy that I see in some, when the only thing they can say about somebody like RFK Jr. is they'll go straight to that aspect of what Caroline has said, for example, or the fact that he's had, affairs. Look at your own relationship status, or if not your own relationship status, look at other friends that you've got in your life that you love, or other family members that you've got in your life that you love. It might be a parent who has also committed adultery, for example. So much hypocrisy out there. I can't stand it. So I had to say that. But anyway, let's just pull now a few cards with regards to RFK Jr. and his chances. Oh, that's interesting. I have just shuffled. I'll pull again, but we've got the eight of wands. I haven't got a full deck here. Let's put these other cards back into the deck. I want to be playing with a full deck. When I asked the cards on the day of his hearing, I was thinking, oh God, he's not going to get through this. I sat through 3 hours of it on the first day. In fact, we all did. My husband did and my daughter did. We all sat through it and were horrified at what we were hearing with regards to his opponents more than anything. Just the shrieking, screaming, ridiculousness of the circus. Viper's Den is what I called it on Instagram and Facebook, and I stand by that. But the point is, what is the point I'm trying to make? I've lost my train of thought. Sorry, my daughter keeps texting me, which isn't helping. On the day of the hearing, oh yes, I pulled some cards, but I remember saying to Sophie, I said, the only way this guy's going to get in and be nominated is divine intervention, because the odds are so stacked against him and the vitriol is so unpleasant. And I pulled some cards that night thinking, I don't think he's going to do it. And actually the cards were really positive and were pretty much saying he will. So I don't know. I mean, still is undecided, isn't it? Let's just pull some cards today. It's Saturday morning here, 11:20. Lots can change in 24 hours, but let's just see how it's looking today. So Robert's nomination, is it likely to go through? I'll take my own emotions out of it. Let's just see what wants to come through. We have the Eight of Cups, which is a card of disappointment. Actually, it's interesting. It's 2 eights. It's an Eight of Wands and an Eight of Cups. So a double 8 energy. Let's pull 2 more cards. Okay, that one's just fallen out. We have the Devil. The powers that were absolutely do not want this guy to get the position. That's the truth of it. Because... I think most of my followers here know why. And no, he's not the devil. That's what he's fighting. He's fighting the devil. He's fighting the old power structures. I remember one of my first videos with Robert, I said something along the lines of, he won't play their game. He won't play their game. He won't get down to their level of nastiness. Because I don't know whether I could have sat through a hearing like that with my brother or sister or cousin having attacked me like that the night before. He was very dignified. He just took it. And I noted that Nicole Shannon, or whatever her name is, who was obviously running with him, she's basically come out and said, if he doesn't get nominated, the senators that vote against him, she will, because she's a billionaire, she will fund alternative candidates to take them on in the primaries. And she said something along the lines of, Robert will play nice. Robert insists on playing nice, but I won't. Something like that. It's like this divine feminine energy. It's like if you don't nominate him, and the devil gets its way. Because make no mistake, they don't want him in. I will see to it that his ideology, what he's standing for, does not die. Because whether he gets in or not, it won't die. Okay, he has ignited something very important, and he's sown very, very important seeds. So let's just see. So these cards are not as good as the previous day, but let's just see. Oh, we've got the Empress that's just flown out. And we've also got the Queen of Pentacles. Well, I don't know. I'm going to sit on the fence with this one because I'm not sure. The cards could be read in many different ways. This could also be Nicole, saying, no, as I've just said, it will not, if he's not nominated, don't worry, I'm going to be the Empress that makes sure that these chicks and the chicks are the ideas do not die. And to me, the Empress is also the Statue of Liberty. It always reminds me of the Statue of Liberty in America herself. But the Empress is a good card. So we've got the Empress next to the Devil. The Empress next to the Devil. Couldn't have two more conflicting cards, really. He's stuck between a rock and a hard place, is what I'm hearing. I just want to pull a card that goes between the Devil and the Empress. So what is there any other energy at play here, please? Is there any other energy at play here? Robert's nomination. Any other energy at play here? We've got the Two of Cups. His wife. We've also got the Four of Wands. Four of Wands is a good card. It's a visionary card. It's a card of vision. Two of Cups to me is him and his wife. I mean, I thought she was amazing. She was sat behind him the whole hearing. Did you see her? There was a lovely little bit where she was obviously worried because he was sweating, and I'd be bloody sweating if I was in the hot seat like he was. And she was getting her tissue out of her handbag, and she was like umming and ahhing how to get it to him and when to give it to him and all this type of stuff. It was such a wifey thing. It was such a wifey moment, But she looked really proud of him, really, really proud of him. And, ultimately, she wasn't in agreement with him even standing and doing what he's doing. But, that's love. That's unconditional love. So there's great love there. We could also interpret it that the thing that helps the Empress beat the Devil energy is love, is it not? If we could send as much love and hope and optimism, and if enough people can hold on to the dream and the vision that he's holding, then maybe we can just get it over the finishing line. But it's going to be tight to the end. So I don't know. I personally am going to wish him well. Right, I think that's pretty much all that I wanted to say in this video. Other than, if you've sat through all of this, I'm going to end with something really special, okay? My new crystal. So, you've already seen him if you're on my page. My page is on Instagram and Facebook. But yeah, isn't that beautiful? It's a Lemurian quartz. And let's just allow my new friend to transmit some energy to us all, and to the world, and to our leaders, and to our enemies, to bring about a golden age for all of us. I know that's not a political statement. I know Trump talks about the golden age, but the golden age is synonymous with us just being able to put down our differences and take the higher ground. Beautiful, isn't it? Okay. Lots of love, everybody. Take care. I'm going to leave it there for now, and I'll be back ASAP. Okay, lots of love. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye for now. Bye.